Ambassador Daniel Harris gazed at the vast panorama of stars through the viewing deck of the USS Horizon. The enormous space station of the Galactic Confederation loomed ahead, a complex web of energy fields, docking ports, and gleaming metal that served as the nexus of interstellar diplomacy for over 200 species. Quite the sight, isn't it? Captain Elizabeth Mercer appeared at his side, her uniform impeccable, her eyes never ceasing their careful assessment of the surroundings. "Beautiful and terrifying in equal measure," Daniel replied. At 53, the former military strategist turned diplomat had seen much in his life, but nothing compared to this. Hard to believe we've been watching them for half a century without them knowing. Elizabeth's posture stiffened slightly. "Let's hope it stays that way, at least until after your address." She lowered her voice. "Remember, they think we've only just achieved FTL capabilities. The Horizon is supposed to be our most advanced vessel." Daniel nodded. The Confederation had no idea that Earth had been monitoring their communications for decades, or that the seemingly primitive FTL drive on the Horizon mass technology far more sophisticated than anything the Confederation possessed. "The shuttle is ready, Ambassador," reported Dr. Alan Palmer, the linguistics expert who had spent the last 15 years deciphering the multiple languages of the Confederation. "Final protocol check complete." "Thank you, Dr. Palmer." Daniel straightened his formal attire, adjusting the small Earth pin on his lapel, a simple blue and green sphere that concealed an emergency beacon. Showtime. Before departing, Daniel retreated to his quarters for a final private communication with Earth. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the faces of his wife Lisa and their son Jordan. "There's my two favorite people," Daniel said, his formal diplomatic mask slipping into a warm smile. "How are you holding up?" Lisa asked, her eyes searching his face as if to memorize every detail. "Nervous but ready. This is everything we've worked for." Jordan, now 28 and a rising intelligence officer himself, leaned forward. "The entire defense network is on standby, Dad. Not that we expect trouble, but—" "I know," Daniel interrupted. "Let's hope all those contingency plans remain theoretical exercises." "You represent the best of us," Lisa said softly. "Just be yourself. That's the plan." He touched the screen briefly. "I'll see you both soon." As the communication ended, Daniel's expression grew serious again. The weight of responsibility settled back on his shoulders. He was not just an ambassador, but the first official human representative to a galactic community that, unknown to them, humanity had been carefully studying and preparing for. His hand unconsciously touched the Earth pin. It was more than decoration, more than even an emergency beacon. It was a reminder of what he stood for and a symbol of the quiet strength of his species. "Earth is ready for this," he whispered to himself. "And so am I." The Grand Assembly Hall of the Confederation overwhelmed the senses, a vast amphitheater with thousands of delegates from across the galaxy. Species of all forms occupied tier upon tier of seating, some humanoid, others defying any terrestrial classification. The air was filled with a cacophony of translation devices, environmental adjusters, and the background hum of the station's immense power systems. Captain Elizabeth watched from the human delegation's assigned observation area as Daniel approached the central speaking platform. Dr. Palmer stood beside her, making final adjustments to their translation devices. "I don't like this," Elizabeth murmured. "Too many variables. Too exposed." Dr. Palmer nodded slightly. "The captain of the Legion delegation keeps looking our way. Third tier, quadrant 4. "Noticed that too," Elizabeth replied without turning her head. "Just be ready." Daniel stood before the assembly, his voice clear and measured as he delivered Earth's formal request for recognition and peaceful integration into the galactic community. His words were carefully chosen, expressions of mutual respect, offers of cultural and technological exchange, and assurances of Earth's commitment to galactic stability. When he finished, there was a moment of silence. Then a low murmur spread through the assembly. The Grand Arbiter, a tall, willowy being with iridescent skin, rose to acknowledge the address when another figure moved forward, General Vexner of the Vaughn Imperium. "Esteemed members of the Confederation, Vexner's voice boomed across the hall. "We welcome the representative of Earth with appropriate diplomatic courtesy, but I must bring to the Assembly's attention disturbing intelligence regarding this new species." Holographic displays activated throughout the chamber, showing images of Earth vessels, but not the diplomatic horizon. These were warships, their designs sleek and predatory. "What is this?" Daniel demanded, but his microphone had been deactivated. "These vessels," continued Vexner, "have been observed at the boundaries of multiple territorial regions. Earth claims to be newly arrived in interstellar space, yet they have been deploying military assets throughout our territories for years." The assembly erupted in shouts and demands for explanation. The Grand Arbiter called for order as Daniel struggled to regain access to the communication system. "This is false evidence," Daniel finally managed when his channel was briefly reopened. "Earth has no such vessels deployed. We come in peace and we have tracked energy signatures," Vexner cut in. "We have recorded transmissions. The evidence is conclusive." On the observer deck, Elizabeth activated her secure communication device. "Horizon, this is Mercer. Communication is being blocked. Something's wrong. Prepare contingency protocols." Daniel stood alone on the platform as accusations mounted. The fabricated evidence was comprehensive and damning. Falsified communications, doctored sensor readings, and manipulated intelligence reports painted Earth as a deceptive military threat. Under Article 47 of the Confederation Charter, the Grand Arbiter announced, "I am compelled to convene an emergency tribunal to evaluate these allegations." Within hours, the diplomatic mission had transformed into a nightmare. Daniel found himself in a sterile chamber, surrounded by a panel of adjudicators. The trial, for that was what it had become, proceeded with frightening speed. "The evidence indicates willful deception," stated the chief adjudicator, a being from the Centauri Alliance. "Earth has concealed military capabilities while presenting a facade of peaceful intentions. The evidence is fabricated." Daniel insisted. "We demand verification by independent observers. We demand the right to present contrary evidence." General Vexner stepped forward. "The security of the Confederation cannot wait for extended diplomatic procedures. We have protocols for dealing with deceptive species attempting to infiltrate our alliance." Daniel looked around at the faces, some concerned, others hostile, many simply uncertain. He realized with growing horror that this had been planned. Earth's entrance into galactic society was being systematically undermined before it could even begin. "I invoke the right of appeal to the full assembly," Daniel stated, citing protocols he had studied extensively. "Denied on grounds of security risk," responded the adjudicator without hesitation. Daniel felt the trap closing. His communications had been severed, his delegation isolated. Captain Elizabeth and Dr. Palmer were now essentially hostages, confined to their quarters under guard. In the final moments of the sham trial, Daniel stood tall, his dignity intact even as hope faded. "You have been found guilty of espionage and deception against the Confederation," the adjudicator pronounced. "Under the ancient laws, such crimes are punishable by dissolution." Daniel's blood ran cold. Dissolution, execution by molecular disintegration, was a penalty from the Confederation's early days, rarely invoked in modern times. "This is not justice," Daniel stated, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "This is political theater orchestrated by the Vaughn Imperium. I ask only that you allow me to send a final message to my government." "Denied," said Vexner, now standing triumphantly beside the adjudicator. "Sentence will be carried out immediately." As guards moved to take him to the execution chamber, Daniel realized that his death had been planned from the beginning. Earth's introduction to the galactic community was being shaped as a cautionary tale, a demonstration of the Confederation's power over upstart species. In his heart, Daniel knew what would follow would not be what Vexner expected. He thought of Lisa and Jordan, of Earth's secret fleets hidden in dimensional pockets throughout the galaxy. He thought of Protocol Phoenix, the contingency that would be activated upon his death. General Vexner watched with clinical interest as Ambassador Daniel Harris was secured to the dissolution platform. The execution chamber was small, attended only by required witnesses and security personnel. For the record, Vexner stated, "The prisoner has been found guilty of espionage against the Galactic Confederation and sentenced to dissolution under Article 158 of the Ancient Codes." Daniel looked directly at Vexner, seeing past the alien features to the ambition beneath. "You've made a fundamental miscalculation, General." "Have I?" "And what might that be?" "You think we're weak because we sought peace." Daniel's hand moved subtly to his chest, where his earth pin remained. "Humanity has never been weak. We just prefer not to fight when we don't have to." Philosophical until the end. Vexner nodded to the technician. "Proceed." As the dissolution field began to energize around him, Daniel pressed firmly on his earth pin. A microscopic needle pierced his skin, confirming his biological identity and transmitting his final coded message. The pain was brief but intense, a sensation of being unmade at the molecular level. Ambassador Daniel Harris's last thought was of Earth, of humanity's potential, and of the response that would soon follow. At that exact moment, across light years of space, Lisa Harris received an alert on her secure terminal. Her face went ashen as she read the simple message, "Phoenix confirmed." With trembling fingers, she initiated the protocol that would notify the highest levels of Earth's government. In the Oval Office, President Laura Wilson received the confirmation with grim resolve. She turned to the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the gathered intelligence directors. "Ambassador Harris has been executed by the Confederation," she announced, her voice tight with controlled fury. "Activate Protocol Phoenix. All units full deployment." Throughout the solar system and beyond, hidden installations came to life. Massive bay doors opened in asteroids revealing shipyards. Gas giant mining stations transformed into military command centers. Dormant fleets awoke from dimensional pockets where they had remained undetectable to Confederation sensors. 3,000 warships, built in secret over 30 years, powered up their systems. Unlike the Confederation's vessels, which relied on established jump points and networks, Earth ships utilized a proprietary hyperspace technology that allowed them independent transit anywhere in the galaxy. Aboard the USS Retribution, Fleet Admiral Marcus Chun watched as his command staff brought the fleet to battle readiness. "Primary target packages are being distributed now," Admiral reported as tactical officer. "Phase 1 objectives are locked." "Acknowledge all commands," Chun replied. "Remember, this is not about vengeance. This is about justice and security. Minimal casualties, maximum effect. We disable. We do not destroy unless absolutely necessary." "The ambassador's son is requesting to address the fleet, sir." Chun nodded. "Put him through." Jordan Harris appeared on the main view screen, now wearing the uniform of the Special Intelligence Division. Though his eyes betrayed his grief, his voice was steady. "My father believed in humanity's place among the stars," he said simply. "He believed it could be earned through peace. His death will not change our principles, only our methods. Execute your missions with precision and restraint. Show them what humanity truly is." Throughout known space, Earth's response materialized with devastating effectiveness. Jump point control stations suddenly found their systems overridden by unknown protocols. Communication hubs experienced selective outages, isolating Vaughn Military Command from their fleets. Defense platforms went offline without firing a shot, their operators unharmed but their weapons neutralized. In the Confederation Central Station, alarms blared as sensors detected multiple ships materializing within the defensive perimeter. The USS Retribution and its escort vessels assumed a perfect containment formation, neither firing nor responding to panicked hails. General Vexner was in his private quarters, celebrating his diplomatic victory when the lighting shifted to emergency mode. His communication officer appeared on screen, panic evident. "Sir, we're surrounded. Earth vessels have appeared throughout Confederation space. They've neutralized our command networks, and..." The door to Vexner's chamber disintegrated into dust. Jordan Harris stepped through, flanked by two operatives in advanced combat suits unlike anything Confederation technology could produce. "General Vexner," Jordan said calmly, "by authority of Earth Command, you are under arrest for the murder of Ambassador Daniel Harris and conspiracy against Earth." Vexner reached for his sidearm, but found himself frozen in place by an invisible force field. "Interesting technology, isn't it?" Jordan approached slowly. "We call it localized temporal suspension. You're experiencing time at 1,000th the normal rate within your immediate personal field." Jordan circled the nearly stationary general. "We could have destroyed you. We could have destroyed everything you value. Instead, we're going to show you justice. Real justice. Not the perversion you orchestrated against my father." Throughout the station, similar scenes played out as Earth Special Forces secured strategic locations. Captain Elizabeth Mercer and Dr. Alan Palmer were freed from their confinement by a precision team that appeared literally through the walls using phase shift technology. "What's happening?" Elizabeth demanded as they were escorted to a secure extraction point. Protocol Phoenix explained their rescuer. Earth's contingency response. The ambassador's death triggered full deployment. "My God," whispered Dr. Palmer. "The entire fleet? And then some," the operative confirmed. "The Confederation is about to learn that Earth has never been the primitive newcomer they assumed." Within 6 hours, Earth forces had established complete strategic control over all major Confederation systems. Not through destruction, but through precision technological superiority. Communications, transportation, and defensive systems were selectively disabled with minimal casualties. In the Grand Assembly Hall, now secured by Earth forces, Admiral Chun addressed the stunned representatives of the galactic community. "Members of the Confederation," he began, "today you witnessed the execution of Earth's ambassador based on falsified evidence and a mockery of justice. You may have expected retaliation. You may have expected devastation." He gestured to the view screens showing Earth vessels throughout Confederation space. None firing, none destroying, simply present and in control. "Instead, we offer clarity. General Vexner and the military faction of the Vaughn Imperium have been systematically manipulating Confederation politics for decades. We have secured evidence of their interference in 17 different species development, their sabotage of peace initiatives, and their gradual militarization of what was meant to be a peaceful alliance." Murmurs spread through the assembly as data began streaming to their personal devices, irrefutable evidence of corruption at the highest levels. "Several of you were coerced into supporting today's travesty," Chun continued. "We know which of you acted under duress and which collaborated willingly. Justice will account for these differences." A representative from the Trellin Federation rose shakily. How long has Earth been watching us?" "Long enough to understand the difference between the Confederation's ideals and its reality," Chun replied. "We came in peace. We still come in peace. But peace requires justice and security." Another representative from a species that had suffered under Vaughn influence stood. "The humans have freed our orbital platforms from Vaughn control forces. They disabled weapons, but harmed no one. They protected our people." One by one, other representatives, particularly from smaller, less powerful species, spoke of similar experiences. The Earth forces had targeted Vaughn military assets while safeguarding civilian populations and infrastructure. Captain Elizabeth and Dr. Palmer were escorted to the central platform. Elizabeth looked out at the assembly, her military bearing undiminished by the ordeal. "Ambassador Harris believed in the potential of this confederation," she stated. "He died still believing in it. Earth's response is not just about demonstrating our strength. It's about restoring the integrity this body was meant to have." Dr. Palmer added, "We studied your languages, your cultures, your histories, not to exploit, but to understand. We hope to join you as equals. Now we offer something more valuable than blind membership. We offer a reset, a chance to rebuild this confederation on its original principles." In the days that followed, a new order emerged. Earth representatives worked with Confederation authorities to dismantle the military faction that had corrupted the alliance. General Wexner and his primary collaborators faced tribunals conducted with scrupulous fairness, a pointed contrast to the sham proceeding that had condemned Daniel Harris. Throughout it all, Jordan Harris worked tirelessly. He supervised the integration of Earth's advanced technologies, participated in diplomatic initiatives to reassure nervous species, and personally oversaw the recovery of his father's remains. 1 month after what came to be known as the Phoenix deployment, representatives from across the galaxy gathered for a solemn ceremony. A memorial had been constructed in the heart of the Confederation's Central Station, a replica of the Washington Monument from Earth, but built from materials contributed by every member species. At its base stood a life-size statue of Ambassador Daniel Harris, his expression resolute but kind, his hand extended in greeting. The inscription read in multiple languages: peace through understanding, justice through strength, humanity among the stars. President Laura Wilson had traveled from Earth for the occasion. She stood beside Jordan and Lisa Harris as delegates from hundreds of worlds laid symbolic tribute to the monument's base. "Your husband changed the galaxy," Wilson said quietly to Lisa. "Not in the way we planned, but perhaps in the way it needed." Lisa nodded, her grief still evident but tempered now with pride. "He always said that how we respond to adversity reveals more than how we celebrate success." Jordan, standing tall in his formal uniform, watched as the new Grand Arbiter, elected freely, without Vaughn interference for the first time in generations, approached the podium. "Today we welcome Earth as a full member of the reformed Galactic Confederation," the Arbiter announced. "Their technology, their wisdom, and their commitment to justice have reminded us of our founding principles." A murmur of agreement rippled through the assembly. As humanity joins us, so too does their perspective. The tragedy that brought us to this moment cannot be undone, but Ambassador Harris's sacrifice has created something unprecedented, a truly equal alliance where power serves principles rather than dominates them. As the ceremony concluded, a new ambassador rose to represent Earth. Samantha Reed, handpicked by President Wilson, approached the central platform. "We come not bearing retribution but restoration," she declared. "Earth's strength will serve the Confederation's highest ideals. We bring not war, but justice, not domination, but partnership." She looked up at the memorial to Daniel Harris. One human's death revealed the corruption that threatened this alliance. The restraint with which Earth responded revealed our character. Both will define our place among you. That evening, as the official events concluded, Jordan found himself on a quiet observation deck, looking out at the stars and the assembled ships of numerous species now flying peaceful patterns around the station. Captain Elizabeth joined him, standing in companionable silence for several minutes before speaking. "Your father would be proud," she said finally. "Not just of you, but of what his sacrifice accomplished." Jordan nodded. "He always told me that true strength isn't about having the biggest weapons or the most advanced technology. It's about knowing when to use them and, more importantly, when not to." "Earth could have destroyed the Confederation," Elizabeth observed. "Instead, we healed it. That's humanity at its best," Jordan replied. "We could be terrible enemies, but we're better allies." Across the galaxy, a new order was taking shape. Earth vessels now openly patrolled alongside ships from other worlds. Technology exchanges were beginning under careful protocols. Cultural delegations were preparing for unprecedented exchanges. At the Harris family home in Virginia, Lisa sat on the porch swing that Daniel had built years ago, watching the sunset. On her lap lay his journal, the one he had kept since their college days. The final entry, written the night before his departure for the Confederation, reads simply: "If we succeed, we open the stars to our children. If we fail, may our response reflect the best of what humanity can be." She closed the book, holding it to her heart as tears fell freely. Above her, the evening stars began to appear, no longer distant and unreachable, but now places where her husband's legacy lived on. On the Confederation's Central Station, the earth pin that Daniel had worn, recovered from the execution chamber and restored, was placed in a place of honor beside his memorial. It shone under the careful lighting, the simple blue and green sphere, a reminder of a world that had come to the galaxy in peace, responded to violence with measured justice, and changed the course of interstellar history, not through conquest, but through principle. The ambassador was gone, but his mission, in ways no one could have predicted, had been fulfilled beyond all expectation. Across vast interstellar distances, species that had long suffered under corruption found themselves freed. Worlds that had been exploited discovered new allies. And humanity, once feared as a potential threat, was now recognized as something more valuable, a moral force backed by unquestioned strength but guided by compassion. In the rebuilt Grand Assembly Hall, a new principle was added to the Confederation Charter, proposed jointly by a coalition of formerly marginalized species and unanimously adopted. It became known as the Harris Doctrine. True peace requires not just the absence of conflict, but the presence of justice. True strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to refrain when destruction is possible. The galaxy had executed a human envoy. Earth's retaliation had been instant, but it had been a retaliation of justice, not vengeance, of restoration, not destruction. And in that response, humanity had defined its place among the stars not as conquerors, but as the conscience of a civilization reborn.